This young man is about to stumble upon an ancient interdimensional portal, but unbeknownst to him, it is no accident that he is the one to discover it. From the 1930s to early 1970s, in the mountains on the Mongolian border, fossils of strange, enormous creatures were discovered along with bodies of women that were thousands of years old, but somehow still had their flesh intact. In 1979, Professor Yang Qiaolin begins a special project exploring these mountains, called Kunlun Mountains, to uncover more of these unusual findings. A man named Hu Baiyi is among the workers assigned to this project. He is working incredibly hard, and at one point he collapses due to the harsh working conditions. Yang Ping, the daughter of Professor Yang and a medic, attends to Hu Baiyi, and he is immediately taken with her. He reveals that he feels as if he has known her for a very long time. After a lot of hard work, the skull of a gigantic ancient creature is discovered in the mountains, which the workers observe in awe. Soon after, the mountains begin shaking, and some kind of explosion occurs inside them, the shockwave of which reaches outside and wrecks the camp and everyone in it. Soldiers with guns arrive at the scene, led by Commander Han Ju Yang, expecting something terrible to come out of the mountain. But instead, they just see Professor Yang and a few other survivors emerging. Next, Han gathers the soldiers and announces to them that the explosion has opened a passage inside the mountains, which Professor Yang is going to investigate. He informs the soldiers that he is going to form a squad to accompany him and asks for volunteers. Due to the high-risk nature of the mission, very few soldiers volunteer, but one of them turns out to be Ping, the professor's daughter. Seeing her volunteer, the down-bad lover boy Hu Baiyi also volunteers his services. Hu Baiyi's best friend, Kang Sun, cannot see him getting killed over a girl, and he also volunteers so that he can look after Hu Baiyi. The squad takes a nice group picture before heading into the wreck inside the mountain, following the destruction from the explosion. After traveling a little way inside the mountain, they reach a deep chasm and proceed to climb into it. They land in an icy region and proceed to drop down further into a narrow crack in the icy floor. Finally, they reach a cave that is full of peculiar fossils of the previously unheard-of enormous creatures. After walking around the cave for a while, they reach an exit, which takes them to the other side of the mountain. Hu Baiyi and Professor Yang stand at the edge of the mountain and enjoy the scenery, and Yang tells Hu Baiyi that according to legend, the gate of an ancient kingdom belonging to a secret government is in one of these mountains. Just then, the team makes an astounding discovery. They discover massive paw prints in the snow, and the squad decides to follow them, not knowing that the deadly gigantic beast to whom these prints belong is nearby. On the way, the squad encounters tiny creatures that resemble butterflies, but a closer look quickly reveals that these creatures aren't butterflies, but rather tiny bat-like animals. One of the soldiers catches a tiny bat in his hand, but regrets it immediately, as he burns to death in a blue flame. A couple of soldiers rush to his aid, but they end up dying the same way. Suddenly, a swarm of these tiny bats arrives and surrounds the squad, forcing them to open fire in every direction. All this noise causes the massive beast nearby to move, and due to the sheer size of this creature, his movement alone is strong enough to trigger an avalanche. The squad makes a run for it, but several members become victims of the deadly avalanche. The survivors arrive at the edge of the mountain and find themselves facing a very deep drop. Realizing that they don't really have a choice here, they tie themselves to each other in pairs and jump off the edge. The rope tying Hu Baiyi and Ping gets caught in a block of ice, leaving the two hanging. However, soon after, the rope snaps, causing both of them to fall. Sometime later, Hu Baiyi wakes up at the bottom in the arms of Ping. He wonders how he could have possibly survived that fall. Now, only the people relevant to the plot are left alive: Hu Baiyi, Ping, Professor Yang, and Kang Sun. They gather as much supplies as they can and continue the expedition. After traveling for some time, they arrive at a large cave with a tall tower right in the middle of it. Professor Yang recognizes this place as the sacred palace of Kunlun. He says that the tower is said to have 9 levels, with ancient demons trapped inside them. Professor Yang proceeds to bow down and light a special candle, and the fire from it starts a procedure which prompts thousands of the tiny bats to arrive and encircle the tower. He then proceeds to direct Ping and Hu Baiyi into the tower, ignoring the warning from Kang Sun against this idea. The two enter the tower holding each other's hands, and as soon as they do, an opening appears at the very top and shines a light on them. Moments later, the entire cave begins filling up with different kinds of spirits. Kang Sun does not like this at all. He assumes that they have opened a portal to the devil and hell and immediately rushes to extinguish the candle that the professor lit. This causes the entire process to halt, and just then, the cave starts falling apart. Suddenly, the bats begin attacking them, and Kang Sun realizes that there is no way they will all make it out alive. He draws the attention of the bats to himself and sacrifices his life to allow the other three to escape. The three make it out of the cave, but find themselves facing another deep dive into a waterfall. What is it with these people and running into deep, steep falls off the edges of mountains? Just then, the bats find them, and Hu Baiyi tries to fight them off with fire. He ends up getting attacked by one of the bats in the back of his shoulder. Ping sees that Hu Baiyi is about to catch the deadly blue fire and pushes him into the waterfall. She and her father follow suit. They all fall into deep waters below, and Hu Baiyi manages to spot Ping, but they are separated by a giant water monster that takes Ping away, while a devastated Hu Baiyi can only watch helplessly. Next, Hu Baiyi manages to swim out of the water and make his way back to base, where Han informs him that he is the only survivor from the mission. He also tells him that they have found the bodies of all their soldiers sent into this mission, except for Ping and Professor Yang's. Devastated by this trauma, Hu Baiyi decides to drop everything and get a train back home. At the train station, Hu Baiyi is greeted by his new employer, Mr. Wang, who offers him a job as a librarian. Hu Baiyi starts living a peaceful life with his new regular job. One day, while going through the books at his library, he finds a book written by none other than Professor Yang, and in it, he finds information about the very demon tower that they encountered, and he realizes that Yang was aware of where they were going all along. Hu Baiyi connects the rest of the information and realizes that there was a reason that Yang sent him and Ping into the tower, as only they could have activated it. On the other hand, Han and his team discover an ancient coffin containing a living woman who is a doppelganger of Ping, but refers to herself as Shirley. Shirley possesses mysterious supernatural powers, and consequently, Han's team has no choice but to confine her to a locked room in order to examine her further. 3 years later, Han's team finds Professor Yang and brings him to their headquarters. At the same time, a city in West China called Oil City comes under attack by the same giant monsters from before. Upon hearing this, Professor Yang deduces that the activation of the tower probably opened an interdimensional gateway, allowing creatures from other dimensions to cross over to this one. He sneaks out of the military headquarters to investigate this matter further. On the other hand, the arrival of the monsters seems to have awakened some kind of demonic magic in this dimension, as the wound in Hu Baiyi's back from the fire bat attack starts giving him trouble. One day, he is in the library when his back lights on fire, and he discovers that he has telekinetic powers now. Mr. Wang arrives, and he doesn't seem too surprised at this display. He manages to restore the entire room to normal, and when Hu Baiyi demands answers, Mr. Wang explains that Hu Baiyi's blood has been contaminated by demonic magic, and if he keeps using these powers, he could lead himself straight to hell. Hu Baiyi asks how Mr. Wang knows all this, and Mr. Wang displays that he has some psychic powers of his own. He transforms the entire room into a tomb and explains that he is the protector of Prince Yi from the Su Lin nation. He explains that Hu Baiyi is a descendant of Prince Yi, who led mankind in the war against the demons that invaded Earth. Prince Yi used his own body to trap all the demons in the Demon Tower, but some of them escaped by assuming a human form. Mr. Wang explains that these demons will now be looking for Hu Baiyi, as he is the only one who can fully open the tower. Elsewhere, Shirley expresses a desire to meet Hu Baiyi, and Han arrives to collect him. Hu Baiyi initially refuses to take part in this little experiment, but when he learns that Shirley looks exactly like Ping, his interest is piqued. Hu Bai arrives in northern China, and Han introduces him to the team he has assembled to find Professor Yang. The team includes a girl named Wei Wei, a guy named Cheng Dong, Shirley, and a few other soldiers. Hu Bai takes one look at Shirley and sees the face of Ping. He gets emotional and calls her Ping, but she insists on referring to herself as Shirley. The team prepares weapons and supplies and heads out. They ride some camels to get through the desert, and at one point end up facing a deadly sandstorm. While trying to survive the sandstorm, the group is split up. Hu Bai's half of the group makes it to Oil City, while the other half gets stranded in the desert and attacked by one of the giant monsters. The monster manages to kill some of the soldiers, while the others escape. The survivors meet up with Hu Bai in Oil City and tell him what happened. Hu Bai suggests to Han that they retreat before there are any more casualties, but he and Shirley are determined to see the mission through. Next, they hear the sounds of monsters approaching and arm themselves. They manage to gun down one of the monsters and set their sights on another when they turn around and notice that the body of the first one has disappeared. During all this commotion, Shirley runs into a school building and Hu Bai follows her. Inside, he sees bodies hanging from the ceiling. Next, Hu Bai discovers a tunnel, which leads him into the prince's tomb. In the tomb, he is knocked unconscious by another beast. The beast is about to finish the job when Shirley stops him. The beast seems to listen to her. Then, Shirley uses her power to place Hu Bai's unconscious body inside the coffin, while more monsters appear outside. To fight the monsters, the squad takes cover and even resorts to the use of rocket launchers. Man, they really came prepared. Wei Wei tries to avoid being eaten by one of the monsters by pretending to be a mannequin. As soon as the monster is gone, she and a friend of Hu Bai's hide in a bus. The monster spots them and starts attacking the bus. Inside the coffin, Hu Bai wakes up and starts screaming. Surprisingly, his wounds heal at a rapid pace in there. Then, he is teleported back to the cave containing the demon tower, where he sees a beast carrying Ping's body for a ritual, where the demon queen is going to take control of her. Hu Bai approaches the queen and demands that she let go of Ping, but she replies that she cannot do that because Ping's body can open the tower. She instead suggests that Hu Bai enter the tower with her to commence the process. Hu Bai refuses the offer and demands that he be teleported back to Oil City for him to have a fighting chance. The demon queen is amused by his optimism and agrees to give him that chance. Hu Bai arrives in Oil City and sees Shirley directing the beasts to attack the squad. He sees one beast attacking the bus that Wei Wei is in and blows it up with a rocket launcher. Another beast rushes to attack Hu Bai, but Shirley protects him, knowing that he is the key to unlocking the demon tower. She cradles him in her arms, but just then, he realizes that hell never get Ping back and shoots Shirley. At this exact moment, all the demonic beasts start disappearing, and the demon tower collapses. Shirley admits that only Hu Bai could have killed her, and surprisingly, as a final act, kisses him. After a few moments, Shirley transforms back into Ping, who says that she is happy she got to see Hu Bai one last time before dying. However, Hu Bai is not ready to let her go. He brings her to the prince's coffin, hoping it will heal her wounds. He gets in the coffin with her and presses his head against her, and then he magically gets to see memories from her childhood. It is revealed that Ping was born with the ability to revive dead beings, and this is how Hu Bai survived the fall earlier. It is also revealed that Ping's mother forbade her from using these powers, and later, when she died in a blue fire, it was revealed that she was a descendant of the demons who assumed human form. Ping's wounds do not heal, and with her final breaths, she expresses her love for Hu Bai and requests him to find her father. Hu Bai is devastated at the death of his one true love and decides to honor her last wish by resuming the mission to find Professor Yang.